than anybody I know. In a news story that we did for Piedmont Hospital, Mom said that anybody's life can change in a moment, and you never know what's going to happen. So you should take advantage of the time that you have and celebrate the day. So that's what we're doing. We're celebrating the day and trying to be present in each moment and being grateful for it. So I'm so glad that we can get here together tonight to share our stories and toast her and truly celebrate the day. So I'll start us off. Veronica has mothered so many. Two-legged and four-legged and some three-legged creatures. Patterson sits on the front porch now, and he's a three-legged guy. Mothering is part of her very DNA, truly. I feel like I won the jackpot of the universe to have wound up as her daughter. And I've had a front row seat in witnessing her amazing energy and love and joy. She is a bright, shining soul. She's a tireless advocate for others. She's the most positive person I know, and she's a great writer and politician. And yes, I'm using that word as a compliment. She's the right kind of politician. And she's a great communicator. She loves flowers, parties, fresh bread, coffee, chocolate, and wine. As I grow older, I've come to realize something incredible about my mom. She loves me and the rest of her family fiercely with Mama Bear love, but she's also uniquely capable of loving many others in the very same way. Most people don't have the capacity and energy to do that, but Mom loves freely and openly, and is always thinking about giving and caring for others. Mom's superhero talent is that she remembers what each person needs or wants and keeps her eye open for it. She's always buying little gifts for people, something special. I know we've all gotten something from Veronica over the years, maybe just a tiny token, but she makes it clear that she thought of you when she saw it. She never hesitates, and she just gets it. And it's that special talent that helps her find perfect forever homes for stray animals, helps her connect people to each other, and sharpens her antennae to spot someone in need. She's absolutely tireless, and I don't think she slept more than 3 hours a night my whole life. She was always boodling, as she calls it, and I realize now that most of that wakeful time was probably spent thinking about others. She's taught me so much: to be strong and to speak up for what I believe in, to love your spouse and family strongly and deeply, to forgive. You've really taught me that. I'm working on it still. To laugh, to travel, to take notice of the little things, and to be grateful. Mom's soul shines bright, even more so in these last few weeks. She's always had the gift of sharing her light with others, and she makes you smile and feel special and loved. Everyone she's touched will continue to share that light, and it will go on and on forever. Thanks, Mom. Thank you. I have one more that I'm going to read from Charlie, that Charlie sent. He just climbed Mount Kenya with 93 14-year-olds. I don't know what's scarier, 16,000 feet in elevation or a bunch of 14-year-olds. I think it's the 14-year-olds for sure. But he's going to go to the beach with us tomorrow. He's flying in, and so we'll all go to the beach together as a family. But he said, when I would bunch the little socks back all the way to the toe to slip them on his tiny foot, I always thought of you, Pops. When I brush his hair, I think of you, Mom. I do not have to put socks on him any longer, except when he's really tired. I do still brush his hair. Not sure for how much longer. I think of my sisters because they used to brush my hair and put on my socks. Mom and Dad, I think of you both now when I hold Bobby and Max. Thank you for more than everything, from the luckiest boy in the world. And I have one other remembrance and story from Diane Harrell, who wrote, and she said, "To my dear Veronica, the smiling face and sparkling eyes I see in every recent picture of you astonishes me with the pure joy you have always maintained for life. I admire how you find such deep pleasure in the littlest of things, a newly sprouted branch on a favorite plant, a leftover piece of cake saved especially for you, the shadows of the sun on the grass, and a silly joke. You have shaped my life in ways you cannot know, as you have done for so many, many others. The family you helped create, that great guy, and those quirky kids, has spread to encompass a huge mass of decent, caring, generous folks, friends, co-workers, recipients of your care, who inhabit this world and carry on your values, ripples in the sea of your exceptionally caring spirit. You have cared for all the earth with all your heart. The animals, plants, rivers, and trees. There's not enough time in the universe to repay your love. I am trying every day. Your sister in heart, Diane Harrell." Isn't that nice? I know. So we have all of these. So sweet. Brenda, I think you said you wanted to say something, and then we'll just let everybody who wants to toast or say something, please do.
Well, I expect I've known Veronica probably as long as anyone else in this room. And the first time I met her, we were both involved in the League of Women Voters. And she was so dynamic. Now, she had a babe in arms, Haley, and Claire was a toddler. And she still had all this boundless energy that she wanted to do good with. So she had started doing some research on some county documents and found out that she was not permitted to see the minutes from the county commissioners' meetings. Well, she came back to our League of Women Voters meeting, and she said, "You know, they won't let me see this, and I think we need to do something." So we all agreed, and we contacted our state league office and asked them if they would help us in this battle with our county commissioners. So they sent an attorney, and we filed suit, and we won. So the minutes for the county commissioners' meetings were open to the public forevermore. So little did we know that she would, in just a few short years, be commissioner of Jackson County, and I would be a commissioner on the town of Silva. But I think it got in our blood. But Veronica did so many other things. We were on the board of directors for the Western North Carolina Legal Aid Services, and I think Raymond Large had not come to town at that point, and he came probably that year, and we enjoyed knowing him and helping get that organization started. She was one of the ones that led the fight against the Duke power increase, and we did not have to see so great power bills in our county. She also was instrumental in founding Hawthorne Heights, which is a shelter for teenage girls, and all these good things that she has done. And she did it, as I alluded to before, with little children. And during that time, she had one more, and that was Charlie. So here she is doing all of these wonderful things. So she was elected to Jackson County Board of Commissioners for a couple of terms, and then she went back to school and got her master's in public administration. And after that, she got a real job. She worked at the Jackson County Resource Center as the director there. And there's just so many, many things about Veronica. But fast forward, those are the old days, but fast forward to 2002, and we had a dear friend, Martha Queen, who was dying of cancer, And on her bucket list, she wanted to go to New York City. So a group of us said, "Sure, we'll go." So Vicki Green, Myrtle Schrader, Rose Garrett, Veronica, and myself and Martha, there were 6 of us, decided that we would indeed go. And it was almost like Murphy's Law to begin with, because we ended up spending 8 hours in the airport before we took off. So we were kind of punch drunk at that point. Not literally drunk, but we were getting pretty testy. So that just threw our schedule off the whole way. We get into LaGuardia. So we have 6 women and luggage for about 4 days for 6 women. And that was not a small amount of luggage. And we were going to have to rent at least 2 taxis to get us to our airport. And we saw this limousine. It said for hire. So we went over there, and it was cheaper to rent the limousine than it was the couple of taxis. So we get into LaGuardia pretty late. So we get in this limousine and start on our merry way. And when we get into the city proper, we all stand up through the moonroof, and we're toasting New York City and singing. And I don't think any of us could really sing. And you would have thought we were probably going to go to the Waldorf Astoria for a stint. Well, I think Carl was responsible in getting our accommodations for us. And that was in the Appalachian State University loft. There were, in this loft, if you can just visualize, there were 2 apartments. One was for the manager, and one was for whoever got there first. And then there were 2 rooms that were dormitory style with bunks in them, one for men and one for women. Well, the manager, we had to call the manager and get him to come down to let us in because it was way past bedtime. So he comes and he said, "Well, I have some bad news." And we could all just imagine that we were not going to have a place to stay. He says, "We only have 2 beds available in the girls' room." So Rose and Martha said, we'll take it. So that meant the other 4 of us had to go sleep with the boys. So the manager said, "I've asked these fellas if they would take the top bunks, so you ladies," he didn't say you old women, but he said you ladies can have the bottom bunk, and they chose not to. And these were students at Appalachian State with one of their advisors with them. So here we go, the 4 of us, we climb up on these beds and have a pretty good night's sleep. And the next morning, this instructor corners Myrtle, and he says, "I need to know everybody's name." He said, "I need to tell my wife at least the names of the women I slept with last night." We've had many wonderful years and many wonderful stories. And there's an old saying that says, you can count your close friends on one hand, but that doesn't mean Veronica's friends. You don't have enough digits in your body to count your friends, as you can just look out and see everybody. And with love, I can say I love to count you as my dear friend.
Okay. For those of you who don't know me, I am Patel Eldridge's daughter. That's a joke. Because that's what everybody knows me as. I'm Patel Eldridge's daughter. What you may not know is that I'm also Veronica Nicholas's daughter. And my earliest memories And I have some pretty early memories of Veronica because I was practically born in her house. My earliest memory actually is of her with Charlie. I don't know if you remember this. You probably remember an incident of this at some point. But Charlie was still nursing. And he bit her. And she announced, "Ow! You little..." I'll edit myself there. "You bit me!" And she proceeded to spank him. And then, and this is the part that was great, she laughed with that beautiful peal of laughter that only Veronica has. And most of my most wonderful memories of Veronica are of her laughter. And most of them have to do with somebody being naughty. And I don't know if I should tell this story, but I feel like I should. Because it might put me in trouble, but it was a really long time ago. I was a minor at the time, and it was within my first year of driving. And I don't remember exactly why she was in the Chevy Impala with me and we were alone together and I was taking her home, but I do remember that there was nobody on the road in downtown Silva. And I ran a red light on purpose. And I told her I was going to do it before I did it. To it, she said, "No, you're not gonna, oh my God, you just did it." And she laughed. Which was my reward. Because honestly, during my entire childhood with Veronica, that was my thing. I wanted desperately to be the person that made Veronica laugh. And I just did it again. Because of all the gifts that Veronica has, and that we have been spoken of here already, there's one that you guys failed to mention, and that is her gift being able to see the humor in so many situations. When she can be in a hospital with somebody who is very, very sick and still manage to make you laugh. And that is a gift that so few people have. And I just felt that that had to be shared.
Cal Farwell, I'm calling on you. Cal Farwell. Cal Farwell, get up. I got to read Hal, so I make you Hal and get it. You have it?
You don't have class.
You're awesome. Okay. He's gonna make Jerry read it?
Nobody could hear me. So I'll ask Gary to do it.
I don't know exactly why.
Are you gonna channel it?
No, I have. Thank you. When Hal started walking up here, I could see the terror in his eyes, and I could also see the emotion welling up in him. And I thought, I wonder if he's going to be able to do this. And now he's asked me to. This is Hal's tribute. Veronica, a celebration. A few years ago, I became aware of how consistently Veronica would describe any experience she had as wonderful. In my jadedness, I figured sometimes she indulged in what Mark Twain would call a stretcher. Then something happened that made me realize I was wrong. It involves a story I am repeating, probably not as well as Carl first told it, but we'll keep it short. Carl and Veronica had traveled to Argentina, and one day decided to cross the river into Uruguay to visit the capital, Montevideo. They had a pleasant amble around the city, then stopped for lunch at a nice sidewalk cafe that reminded them of those they love in Paris. As they finished, Carl realized he had neglected to exchange currency when they crossed the border, and was actually running very low on cash, even American and Argentinian. When told by the waiter that he could not accept a credit card, Carl told Veronica to sit tight while he went off to find an ATM machine. His problems increased when he could not find one. For hours. After fearing himself lost at one point, he did get back to the cafe, no richer than before. Veronica, in the meantime, had enjoyed her wine and made friends with all the wait staff and half the customers all afternoon. For her, it was a wonderful afternoon. This story also has a happy ending. When Carl saw the manager, he said they could take his credit card, but just preferred to have cash. So they got out of the country without seeing jail. Now, the moral of the story should be obvious. For Veronica, the experience was wonderful. She was not stretching the truth when she told me it was. But it also results from her way of seeing the world around her as essentially good, kind, lovely, or just full of wonders. The other day I was sitting at the table with her and she pointed out how beautiful the clouds passing by outside were. Then she drew my attention to the zinnias someone had brought her as a spectacularly colorful and pretty bunch of flowers. Over the years, Veronica has always drawn my attention to something wonderful she sees or experiences. To the clouds, flowers, her cats and dogs, even Carl. For that vision, we can all justly thank her and celebrate her this evening. She is herself simply wonderful.
Chef Peg, do you have something to say? Chef Peg, do you have something to say?
Pizza for everybody. SpaghettiOs. That's what makes it all worthwhile, though, right there.
Here, I'm going to save you, Sophie. All right, hot on the heels of Hal's wonderful tribute.
Thank you.
And somewhat related. Thank you. I'm not good at this. Shortly after Mom got her diagnosis last holiday season, I called her up and I'm like, hey Mom, do you know who Warren Zevon is? She's like, Werewolves of London? I'm like, yes, you got it. And I said, you know, he had mesothelioma. He's on David Letterman, his Big Buddy's show. David says, hey, do you have any advice for the rest of us, having been given a life-limiting diagnosis? And Warren Zevon said, enjoy every sandwich. So I related this to Mom. I'm like, this is what we need to do from now on. We need to enjoy every sandwich. And I've come to realize that you have always enjoyed every sandwich. That was shitty at times. You have enjoyed every flower
every puppy nose, every moment of laughter you've had with your friends, and you know, you're going to be my role model from now on.
Thank you.
So.
Go girl.
Sophie.
Go girl.
Sophie read something.
No pressure, Sophie.
Should we start chanting your name? I'll read it. Okay.
Stand up with your mouth.
Sophie, come on and stand up with me at least. You be a big girl. No? Okay. Grammy Bear, I love you. There is absolutely no.
Grammy Bear, this is Sophie. So I talk like this. Okay. Grammy Bear. Grammy Bear. You want to do it, Sophie? Okay, no, okay. Grammy Bear, I love you. There is absolutely no denying that. When I think of you, I think of the beautiful fields of tulips in Holland and the pretty gardenias growing in our backyard. I think about how you never fail to notice the pretty things in life, like how it's a pretty day, you stop and say, smell the roses. You can't help but point out the beauty of that tree over there or how the flowers are blooming early. But what really amazes me is your crazy, optimistic ways and caring point of view. You can't help but help. You are always touching others around you and can always, always brighten someone's day. I love you lots.
Of course, gracious.
I haven't prepared anything, but I want you to know that John and I take credit for bringing Veronica and Carl to Jackson County. Veronica's sister Judy and her husband Gordon were in graduate school, and Gordon had just gotten out of the Navy, as said John does, and we were in graduate school at Chapel Hill. And they were in an Evelyn Wood reading dynamics course together. And so we had this wonderful friendship. And Gordon went back to Forest City to work with his dad in feeding people in factories. And Judy was having her graduate degree, and she was working on her master's in chemistry. Well, Judy is a very precise person for anybody who knows her. But she dropped the vial of the last thing, so she lost her thesis, and she had to go over again for 6 months. Well, we found out that she had no place to live, so we invited her to stay with us. We had one child, our daughter Shannon, who was a baby, and we knew that at the end of this, we would either be best friends or we wouldn't see each other again. Well, we became best friends. So when Carl graduated and had his PhD, Gordon Scott said, well, Carl, why don't you come to Western North Carolina, Western Carolina University? Carl said, where's that? And he went to the Modern Language Association, and he met Phil Wade. And they were kind of lookalikes, not much hair, both kind of tall guys. Veronica had just had Haley. They were living in Southern California. She went back to Washington State to be with her parents. Well, Carl figured this had to be. They needed a linguist at Western Carolina University. So he took the job. This was the year Dixon was born, so I know it was 1971. And Carl appeared at our doorstep at the rental we had in Dillsboro. This was owned by Jim Cannon, a little brick house that's still there. And knocked on the door. Veronica was home. And we got him involved in what we call the J. Carl Nicholas Memorial Waterworks. We were building a house that on our property that we still have at Jenny Knob, and we had springs, and we needed a spring house. I don't know how many loads of concrete block Carl cooked down there, but lots and lots, and we got a spring house. And then Veronica arrived. In the meantime, John Slater had a friend who lived on Allen Branch who had found a house to rent because other friends were leaving. Well, Carl went there, and in that time, the first time he went there, they met Blaine and Fitzallen Eldridge. The rest is history. And Veronica came with the kids, so we take credit for that.
Here comes Courtney Smith. Sorry. Smith. Okay.
Hi, I'm Courtney Smith, June and Newt Smith's daughter. And I wasn't going to come up here. I didn't have any plans to come up here, but you are all talking about this person who is smiley and wonderful and generous and kind-spirited. And I just want you to know that all of my early memories of Veronica were about getting into trouble. So here's just 3 of them. The first one was when I was very little. I was very little, and I don't even remember the story very well, so it's probably not even true. But I went to the Catholic Church and with my parents, and we were I grew up in the Episcopal Church, so we took communion. So I didn't know that you had to qualify in the Catholic Church to go up there. So when it was time for communion, I got up and I walked to the front, and everybody's going. So I knew I was in trouble. And Veronica saw me go to the front, and she grabbed my hand and she walked right to the front with me, and I took communion illegally. Needless to say, later on, who knew but I would marry a Catholic? That was my indoctrination. The second memory is a whole blur of showing up at the courthouse for various things. I don't even know what we were doing, rallying for the Equal Rights Amendment, protesting various things. I remember one trip to the prison to get somebody out. I don't know what we were doing, but it was all, Veronica was always there when we got there. And then the last memory that I have, which was when I became an adult, and we live in Old Fort, and in Old Fort, it's a very conservative, small community. And when you meet a neighbor, the first question they ask you is, "What church do you go to?" And I said, "The Church of the Pina Colada."
Amy Sims. It's done. Yeah. Come on up. I'm calling you. I read Amy's remembrance too. Story. Toast.
Well, so this came from, it's an excerpt from the letter that I wrote nominating Veronica for the NAACP Humanitarian Award last year, and I am certain it was among dozens. I'm sure there's a lot of people in this room who also wrote such letters, but I sent this to Claire and she asked me to read it. So here it goes. Veronica Nicholas is one of those people whom I like to say is really bad at retirement. I'm in awe of her energy and dedication to tirelessly serving others while still carving out time for her friends and family. The woman makes it seem as if there must be 48 hours in each day. I've had the honor of working with Veronica for almost 9 years now. She's a founding board member of the Community Table and continues to serve on this and many, many other boards. I also know of her extensive work with ARF, and I love hearing her latest story about the critters she's fostering or the loving home she found for one of her charges. However, there's one group that Veronica and I work with that for me best exemplifies why she's a true humanitarian and so deserving of this award. Jackson Neighbors in Need began in 2007 as the vision of several concerned community members, including, of course, Veronica. The initial concept of J&N was simply to keep people from freezing to death. It has since grown to encompass weatherization projects, heating assistance, and shelter for the homeless. As chair of the shelter committee, Veronica has held together a sometimes cohesive, sometimes fragmented, diverse group of folks by always keeping her focus on what truly matters, finding the best way to help the most vulnerable among us. She is the greatest champion for those who have no voice and few good options. When others say, "Why should we help that person? They did this to themselves," Veronica will ardently defend a total stranger with a heartfelt conviction that everyone's life matters and everyone deserves to be treated with basic human dignity. Veronica gets it. She knows that too many folks never had any decent life chances, and they may not know any other way. Her solution is not to just turn a blind eye, but to reach out to people in need, meet them where they're at, and do what she can to lift them up. I know how many nights she's carried the on-call emergency shelter phone and is the kind voice that answers in the middle of the night when someone's in crisis. She's gone out of her way numerous times to pick someone up from jail or the ER to make sure they get to a warm, safe place for the night. The next day, she begins the process of case management to help these folks out of their dire situation, never satisfied with merely a Band-Aid quick fix of a one-night only stay. Veronica is now leading the charge to open the year-round homeless shelter in Jackson County so that no one in her community ever has to be left out in the cold again. I'm grateful to have her as a role model, both personally and professionally, and I'm proud to call you my friend. I love you.
Well, it might be a whole body replacement. I don't know. My name is Thomas, and I didn't know Veronica very well when I first ran into her years ago when you were doing all of the airport stuff. And there was this girl that worked for the Silver Herald, and she kept asking me about showing around Little Canada and doing an article on me, and I didn't quite know what to say to that. And so I called up Veronica, and I said, this girl, Sarah Lambert, she wants to do an article on me in Little Canada, and I don't know if she'd be all right to do that. And Veronica said, "Oh yeah, she'd be fine." And then she said, "I don't think she's going out with anybody." And I got thinking, I said, "Well, that's not what I meant at all." And she said, "Of course not." And make a long story short, we spent a lot of time being hanger-on at the Nichols house, and one of my fondest memories was tying up Charlie when he was a young'un, and he particularly enjoyed having his feet wrapped up with a rope and it tied over a doorknob so he couldn't move. And I'm not sure if who got more fun out of that, if it was Charlie or Veronica, but and Haley did. But anyway, thanks for so many wonderful times and stray dogs that you took in over the years, including us. So.
Come on, girl. Well, then it means you're doing the right thing.
Yeah. And you're live on Facebook, so you gotta get the
Jump right to it.
I was about